Do you believe in miracles? We got Fizzle in the house. Fizzle, what's good, man? Fizzle, glad to have you here.
Let's go. This the South Harmon Podcast. Glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay. Dynasty best ball, that's my favorite way. 40 chess trade show, let's make a trade today or check a AMA. You know Adam at the ATM. Mike always in the building, he gon' stay with him. They gon' start every show off with their own trade. Fantasy's a big ocean, they made their own wave. Make sure you tapping in Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesday night, Saturday morning, ain't no better way. Hit that notification bell when the news break. Go subscribe right now, don't get the news late. Destination Devy, that's the team. Dynasty Football, man, that's my favorite thing. I remember Biggie said it was all a dream. Now people watching on their phones and computer screens. Welcome to the team. Let's start the show.
Welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Dynasty Trade Show. I really hope you're enjoying us doing multiple ones a week. We enjoy it. I absolutely love just talking about Dynasty Trades. One of my favorite things to do. I'm going to put it as second, though. The AMA is by far my favorite, getting to interact with all you degenerates live. The questions that come in, the comedy that comes in, but the trade show, very close second. I just love talking Dynasty Trades. So if you could do us a huge favor, go down, hit the like and subscribe button. Interact with us. Let us know if we're crazy, stupid, really enjoy what we're doing, or you hate us. Either way.
Tell us all of it. You like us, hate us, you enjoy it, you hate it, all of it. We want to know. Put it in the comments. If you're new to the channel and you find this valuable, just hit the subscribe button. Check some of our other stuff out. Maybe you find out you don't quite hate us as much as one individual take we had. Some bad take. Probably I had. Maybe Mike had. Who knows?
Come do an AMA. It's a good time.
Ask us a question. But without further ado, go ahead. Sorry.
Hey Adam, man, we've been promoting the website southharmonff.com. Come check it out. We're using that warp tool so damn much. It is so helpful. Big
on
shout
this
out
show,
to
we're
our
gonna
partner,
be using it, man. Yep.
Our partner Koopa, for designing it, making the easy use, getting the website up and running. It is fantastic. And if you'd like your deal featured on here, like some of the patrons we got so many new patrons coming in discussing everything Dynasty or just whatever they want. We got a damn pro Rocket League. You see these guys in here in the Discord, man, they're playing Rocket League every night. I think they're going professional. Come check us out, patreon.com/South Harmon. $1 gets you in the door and gets you the ability to put your trade on the trade show so we can discuss it. But Adam, man, let's get to the deals, man.
I was going to say, this is the show of McNutted. I have nothing to say. Let's get right into his deal. By the way, we're going to grade today. Let's take a look and see what the Iowa Michael did. What did the McNutted do? Here's the thing that I first and foremost see. Now, most of you probably see this on YouTube, but if you're on podcast only, you're driving, you can't see, he sent away the love of his life. One Samuel Howell, quarterback for the Washington once football team, now the Commanders, as well as Garrett Wilson. So Mike is sending away Sam Howell and Garrett Wilson. He's acquiring what I in particular like is a 24 first via roster baiter. Anytime you pick up a first from Cody, roster baiter, if you will, I'm pretty pleased. And then also the 24 first from BA132. So simple deal, 2 24s, Garrett Wilson out as well as Sam Howell out. Mike, walk us through it, man. What I have is a 12-team Superflex PPR tight end premium to start 10. But you know the league better than anyone, so talk the intricacies, the warp tool, anything you got, man.
All right. So another thing we don't discuss a ton, but is the league simulator that Koopa built. Part of the warp package, if you go on the website and purchase it. The league simulator, I think that is also one of the most underrated. And I just so happen to be fucking around with it one day. League simulator, plug in this league. And I'm just curious because I had a year, I think this might be year 4.
What is this league, by the way?
So this is the League of Ordinary Gentlemen. I did not start it, did not name it, but a couple years ago, a couple guys asked me. I was in the league, one of my first Dynasty leagues that I ever played in. a couple guys asked me, hey, would you be interested in taking it over and continue the league, because we were in danger with the commish being MIA of the league just folding and separating.
Okay.
I said, okay,
Yep.
I got it. I can manage it. No big deal. I commish a ton of leagues. I'll take it over. So I've been competitive in the league for the first couple of years, and then the last couple I've just been rebuilding. What I like to do, accumulate assets. I plug it in the league simulator one day, and it's like, hey, you have so many assets on your team. You've built up a fairly good squad. You've had a ton of draft picks. You're actually a top 3 team in the league. I say all this to say that trading away Garrett Wilson in a league where you're a competitor seems antithetical. But another thing that the league simulator told me is that the guy I'm trading with, this BA132, is a bottom 4 team in the league without Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson doesn't really make him a super strong contender. And obviously it's our guy in here, Cody, roster baiter, his first as well. Another one that's bottom 4 in league simulator. So, and these are over 100 simulations. It doesn't really matter how many times I run it. I can run it 1,000 times. The results kind of come out the same. These guys are both bottom 4 teams, definitely on the fringe. I have an abundance of wide receivers: Drake London, Devontae Smith, Treylon Burks, like these kind of wide receivers. Chris Olave, I built up to depth over the last couple of years. Garrett Wilson just happens to be one of them. Sam Howell, my QB5. I'm probably never, ever
Not in your heart.
Sam Howell.
Not in your heart.
Not in my heart, but on my team, my current one constructed, my QB5. So if I can get off my QB5 in another position, which I have an abundance of in Garrett Wilson, for 2 first, I would say that's probably close. But when I factor in the league simulator, when I run it and I go, I got another shot at having 2 top 4, 24 first, with, mind you, I already had 3, Adam. I already had 3.
I was just going to get to that, because that's the biggest point that I think is underrated in grading a single trade. Even if the person that's grading your trade is really, really good, like let's say they do great with context, they're very smart with Dynasty, it's not in the current deal, right? So
right,
you'll say on the surface, okay, well, like I need 2 firsts for Garrett Wilson, so now Sam Howell's free. Like, I mean, I guess, without context, sure, I'm not going to really argue that. But at the same time, like, where's the context? And the reason I say that is Mike already gave it to you. Like, this deal is a deal, but there's also a lot of moving parts. So he's already told you, former competitor that is now rebuilding. So you already know, the McNutt I know anyway, unless he's in a league with me, has his own pick in that scenario.
Yes.
Unless I have it, he's got it. Reason I say that is so he has his own pick. So it's in his best interest, if he's going to rebuild and get rid of pieces for other picks, that his pick becomes worse because these players are now off of his team, right? So that part's not baked into this individual trade. The second thing is these 224 first, even if you grade them as they are, and even if you say there's like mid to early upside, that doesn't bake in once you have 5, some of the ones that may be more mid to late, and you have ones that are more mid to early, like if they cross over, you're still going to end up with early, right? You have half of the first round damn near, right? Like that bakes in upside in just the picks themselves. And then the biggest thing is, if you watched the trade show last week, if you watched the trade show anytime, what does 5 first get to? I can tell you anything. Mahomes.
Yes.
It's anything. Now, the owner of Mahomes may say no, but when you go with 5 first to the table for Patrick Mahomes, like he may say decline. He or she may say decline, but they're not going to be like, oh, that's a terrible offer. I would never. You got 5 firsts, right? That's not Sam Howell. Like you come to Sam Howell to the deal as the primary piece, and people are laughing you out of the building about Patrick Mahomes. And so all that being said, there's a lot of intricacies in trades in general, and one of the reasons I want to talk about this that we do here that are a little deeper than a standard thing, that show a lot more context. So I guess for me, Mike, knowing you're rebuilding, obviously I want Garrett Wilson, but if like people value him as a 2 first asset, I'm comfortably willing to move on a rebuild because not that I don't think Garrett Wilson can be awesome, but I don't think he's like a must-have foundational piece on a 12-team Superflex PPR tight end premium start 10 team, right?
I think it's completely fine. Like if you say Garrett Wilson for 2 first, most time than not, I'm just going to take the 2 first because it's 2 assets. But if you're on a team like this one, this is in full honesty coming out of a rebuild. It's definitely going to be a playoff team in the competition. I wouldn't say it's the strongest one. There's a couple other teams that I look at and I go, I think this one's a little bit more well constructed for 2023. But if you were to say Garrett Wilson for 2 first, more times than not, I'd probably say the 2 first. Now, I completely understand if everybody else goes, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson. He's fantastic. Start 10, his ascension, Aaron Rodgers, all the things he can be. Adam, I'm with you. He's an awesome wide receiver. Yep. Sam Howell is completely fine as like your QB4, QB5, but it's
at that. Yes, I'm sorry. At that, right. Yes.
You wouldn't want Sam Howell.
This is the biggest part of the deal, though, that I'm looking at, and I'm not in the league. And I ran the simulator, by the way, way more than 100 times, just for context. And what I'm seeing is even after this trade, he's 8. When I ran this thing 550 times, BA132 is at 8.
Right.
Now, what this tells me, when I don't even have the full context, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but see, Garrett Wilson, yeah, I'm cool buying him on almost any build. Like, I think he's young and possibly good enough points per game with the addition of Aaron Rodgers
to make be worth it on a contender.
To be a top 12 receiver, absolutely.
Yep.
But here's the problem. Now, depending on the manager and how it works out, like if you're just saying, hey, throw in Sam Howell as a part of this deal so I feel better about sending 2 first, quarterback 3, quarterback 4, quarterback 5, like you're talking about, fine. But here's what I'm worried about when I see what I'm looking at. You're getting Sam Howell as a piece of this deal. Like, okay, I'm great now at receiver, and I'm going to patch Sam Howell in when I need to at quarterback 2. Nah, miss me.
That is the thing. I like to refer to it, and I think you might have coined this one at some point, but it's the poison pill.
Yep.
It's the poison pill. So you leverage your future first, right? Which what BA132 did here. He leveraged his 24 first. He gets Sam Howell thrown in the deal so he feels good about it, and I'm comfortable throwing him in the deal because now Sam Howell is his QB2.
Right. That's what I already figured this. Based on what I'm looking at, I almost knew it had to be.
Right. He has a fantastic QB1 in Justin Herbert, no doubt about it. But you've leveraged your first, and now your QB2 is Sam Howell. Your next best option is a Baker Mayfield.
But the worst,
and this is the team that you're going to roll out. So more times than not, in my mind, I go, damn, you have really no option. Like Sam Howell doesn't get you the conversation of having a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield doesn't get you the conversation of having a good quarterback. And you don't have a first to leverage, right? Like if you want to get another good QB2, you're really only your recourse now is you need a down tier Justin Herbert, which kills you in warp.
But the worst part, see, all that's true, by the way, because I agree with that. But see, here's the thing, right? Now, I'm comfortable going down. Like let's say you have built your team roster construction wise, like you got Herbert as the QB1, like basically what you're missing is your Superflex. Now, if it's not Sam Howell, but let's say, I'm just trying to get a for instance in here. Let's say it's let's say it's Derek Carr.
There you go. That was the one I was going to throw out too, Derek Carr.
Because Derek Carr, here's the thing, right? Like New Orleans doesn't have, outside of an injury, New Orleans isn't going to say, you know what, like Derek Carr, you're out. Like 3 games into the year, 5 games into the year.
We're going with Jake Hayner or Jameis Winston or whatever.
They wouldn't go with Jameis Winston all last year when the Red Rifle, who's been tried and tried over and over, it's just done. The magic trick has been long gone. This Mr. September thing is done. I mean, like the thing about it is, right, with Sam Howell as your quarterback too, and this is one of the biggest problems with like intricacies of this deal. Now, if it's Carr and it's like, all right, like maybe he's not the best warp guy, but he's stable enough at quarterback and has a good enough name. Like he's going to be, I can play him all year. Like I don't have the risk outside of he gets this freak injury. Sam Howell by week 5, by week 6, before that, like, for those of you who forgot, they brought in Jacoby Brissett. Laugh all you want, but, like, Sam Howell's a 5th-round pick. Like, let's not act like he's got this, long leash.
Right.
Like, if something goes wrong in season, you don't even have a quarterback in the discussion of getting to the table of something else, and you don't have your first. And I'm imagining Mike dried this guy of all of his picks, knowing how Mike is, considering he has 5.
No way.
So the well's dried, right? You don't have city water. The well's dried up. Sam Howell's dried up, and you're left with a crusty old bag of dried up nothing. Now, here's the thing that sucks about this. I've been in the situation, not to this degree, but where your team's really, really good, but if your quarterbacks aren't the same. For example, Mike, Justin Herbert last year wasn't a warp monster. Like, if that stays the same and he's a middle-of-the-pack warp guy and Sam Howell falls out of the roster, like, the rest of your team can be great in lineup start 10, but you may not even make the playoffs. You may sneak in. Like, it's
right.
a position you don't want to be in. And then Mike has all the, advantageous spots of, okay, good, I'm glad all that happened to you. You want your pick back? It's not going to happen. So go figure out how to make it work crustily.
This is the thing where I use a combination of the two, man. We've talked about it in the past on 40 Chess, like trying to identify rosters where you'd like to get their pick, right? Where they have a gaping hole. So on this guy, you're looking at it and I'm going, I'll give you Sam Howell, but you don't have your pick. I'm going to poison pill you with a QB2. On Cody's in the league simulator, maybe it looks a little bit rosy. That's fine. On Cody's pick, Roster Raiders pick, it looks a little bit more rosy on the league simulator. But when I look at it, I go, okay, his quarterback situation is much better, right? Lamar, Kirk Cousins, and then he has some decent like QB3 options. In
much better, yeah.
Right. But when you look at it and I go, man, we're in a start 10 and Robert Woods. Like, think about this. Robert Woods is in your starting lineup as your wide receiver 3. This is
some people said he's better than Cooper Kupp a few years back.
Right. A few years back, he might have been. Mike Williams is your wide receiver 2 in this league. Like in your starting lineup in a start 10 right now as it sits, you go, I don't feel good about that in a start 10. Like, I'm more than willing to put my chips down and make the bet on you failing with this roster construction, same as I did with BA132. So using your own judgment, but also using the league simulator to really help identify it. That's where I go, man, I love Garrett Wilson, and would he be worth it for me on a playoff team? Yeah, like Garrett Wilson's awesome. Sam Howell, fine. Good depth piece at quarterback, right? QB4, 5, I'm fine. I'm willing to write out my Sam Howell love. But when you look at the rosters and you can easily identify, I'm willing to make the bet against these two teams on being bad. And if this ends up next year, we're sitting here at this exact time and going like, yeah, I got Caleb Williams and I got, Brock Bowers in a tight end premium league. I got pick 1 and 4, or I got Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. You go, well, either one of those pieces might be Garrett Wilson straight up, and the other one sure as hell is worth a lot more than whatever the hell Sam Howell's worth at that point. So these are the kind of trades. This is why I love that league simulator tool combined with Warp and your own process that you have in identifying teams. So.
Right, and then especially in a lineup start 10, right, you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to try to make, which ones you want to try to leverage. There's so many different outs. Love Garrett Wilson, but so many different outs on Mike's side. All right, Hawaii, Mike.
Ooh, startup trade.
All right, you ready for this? So
I am.
I got to give context too, but let's just run it through real quick. So Hawaii receives a 24 first from Jaden Rosard. This is fresh off a startup. One of the things I think that we need to talk about, and everybody should talk about, when you pick someone's 24 first or whatever, next year's first off in a startup, like there's not a lot of time there for someone to guarantee you, oh yeah, this first is late.
Right.
Like you're talking about at this point, right? Like the 503's coming over from you. Now,
listen,
is there a scenario? But
when you say
you're betting it.
You say it is because you and I have done it a couple years ago where we're like, oh yeah, we're willing to leverage our 24 first in the startup because we're like, this is going to be late. And then what happens?
Boy, oh boy.
Right, exactly. We speak from experience and not the good kind.
Well, I can speak from the good and the bad, and I can tell you on the bad, it feels a lot worse. I love having the good side, but the bad feels worse when you've sent your first away and it's in a startup, and you're like, yeah, this team's gonna be great, and then you realize, 3 of the people you bought in the startup are not playing. Not fun. But anyway, point is, so the 2001 pick, and a 24 first, as well as the 10-11. Okay, so those are being acquired by Hawaii. He is sending away the 503 and the 1610. Now, Mike, like when you look at this, I'm curious because when I looked at this, I did a couple double takes, and then when I see the context, I saw it. So before I give it to you, like, give me your thoughts on it straight up. I want to start doing more of this where like we talk about it in a vacuum and then we talk about it with context.
There are a lot more players I'm willing to buy for a first in best ball. So I'll start with that. There's a lot more just generic. Now, I'll say this. One of the things I've always cautioned the patrons against when they're asked is, this is a mistake I made last year, is there's a range of players where I go, I think they're worth a first, but why the hell would I do it in June? Why couldn't I wait till September when I have more information and I have a better feeling about their role, their production, injury status, right? I don't have to carry the risk. The pick doesn't carry any risk right now. It's not going down. It's not moving. It might actually go up between now and September. I don't know, but it ain't going down. That's all I know for a fact. The player that I bought carries all the risk, and they can go down at any time. Suspension, injury, whatever, role change.
But the biggest thing too, though, right? And this is one of, I think, like our roots still, startup values, I think, are key. But one of the biggest things when I look at this, though, Mike, is, all right, so startup values, generic 24, 7th round pick. I'm getting the 503 here. Now, one of the reasons I want to talk context and what I'm seeing here, a lot of times, and Mike and I made some of these bad bets in the 5th.
100%.
And it's 5th, 6th, like guys that have, we bought in on, and we're confident are going to buck the trend of where ADP's going. Last year, not necessarily 5th round, but like 6th, 7th, you're talking, Akers, Gibson, guys that we are staunchly in on. But okay, so let's even say you make the bet right. You've won like a round of startup value. 2 rounds.
The payoff isn't that great.
You know what sucks is when you're wrong. You're dead wrong. And that 5th round becomes a 12th round. Like Antonio Gibson, Mike, for example, is a 12th round startup pick in ADP.
Right.
And if you made that bet wrong, that 24 first, or which would have been the 23 first, becomes the 106 or early. Those are top 4 round startup picks. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things in a vacuum before I talk about context that we needed to hit on.
Man, when he was going in the 6th round of startups last year, and I'm going, oh, man, I
can't let this happen, right?
I'll pay a 24 or 23 first for him everywhere. Like, everywhere. Buy him.
I did it for
Akers,
Akers,
you guys
too.
That.
Right.
And it was bad. It's a bad process. So, why do it in June now when you can wait and you can get all the information that you need and make a better, more informed decision later? The other thing when you look at it, best ball, Adam, start 10, doesn't really matter to me, that part. But the 10th round, I generally, for me, my cutoff, and I think Warp also will show this too, as far as decline, like probably around the 11th, the 12th, the 13th round.
Right.
It's kind of those last group of players where I go, in best ball, these guys actually have some meaning and they're not just throw-ins, right? I can actually, they're going to be a foundation piece on a best ball. Not foundation in the sense of like a Garrett Wilson foundation, but foundation where I go like, this is a threshold guy that I want on my team because it's going to fit a need, whether it's at running back, my running back 4, or my tight end 4, or my wide receiver 6, or whatever it may be.
Let me give you context in a startup today, which is what this is, right? So the 10-11, you're looking at right now, like for example, the 10-11 just straight up off the rip, Superflex startup rookies included. Mike, the 10-11 is a big piece. Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
Even around there, Mac Jones, Tyler Lockett, Desmond Ridder possibly. Like, you're talking about legit players, okay? And in best ball, you want Evan Ingram probably everywhere, but in best ball especially. Now let's get to the 16th. in 16-10. So we're talking late 16th. All right. You know who you're betting on there? Michael Wilson, Jalen Warren, Dwayne McBride,
right?
Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's corpse, Mike Gesicki.
Jerick McKinnon.
Right. Jerome Ford, we're hopeful that he's going to be the RB2. He's not going to even probably be the Kareem Hunt
Like,
role.
you look at all those guys and then go to the 201 and tell me the difference between that and a Michael Carter, Isaiah Spiller.
Right. When you get to the 20th, exactly, like, what is the difference? And that's, I know where you're going, right? Like, tell me realistically, Daniel Bellinger's in the 20th. Like, I am happily going to take Daniel Bellinger for Mike Gesicki or Gerald Everett or Darnell Washington.
Right. It's the same thing.
If that's the trade-off, to go from the 16th to the 10th and also bet that you're making a bad decision at the 503. Right. Now, here's the big context, though, that kind of twists this whole thing up. So they're through the 412 when this trade goes down, okay?
Okay.
The person that's acquiring the 503 has Mahomes, Garrett Wilson, and CeeDee Lamb.
Not a bad start.
Not at all. Now, Hawaii has Fields and Lamar, but he's pick hoarding. So he's getting 2 quarterbacks. He's securing like the quarterback position, and then he's just like picking off
draft picks,
futures, and he's betting against everybody in the process. Right. And he says he's trying out the Scott Connor approach of like getting off of the assets that are not locked in elite, but the 24 first, if you get enough of them, have guaranteed. You can't, if you have enough of them, you can't miss all the earlies, right? So, but he's also locking down what he believes are 2 top 10 quarterbacks in the process. So with that being said, 503, he also didn't say if it ended up becoming a quarterback. Sounds like it could be, but point is, it doesn't even matter. Like, whatever you take at 503, I'm just betting against a lot of teams and I'm securing quarterbacks. So
the only way, like, Adam, I look at it and I go, like, I wouldn't do it, but we've seen some crazy things with ADP. Is like one of these quarterbacks, like a Tua,
Kyler, Daniel Jones.
Right, one of these guys fell down.
What if it's Daniel Jones at 503?
I'm good, man. I think I'm not as big on Dan. I mean, he's fine. I just
the reason
I'm personally, like, if this was you and me doing this deal, and you're like, Daniel Jones is there, and I'd be like, yeah, I'll let you take the risk, right? Like,
but can I tell you the difference?
This one, I might take it right up. Yeah,
I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones guy, but when you tell me the guy's already anchored with like Mahomes, Wilson, CD, like he already has a good start. Like Daniel Jones doesn't have to really do shit. He just has to be okay.
He doesn't. I'm just saying, just on the player, like
the principle, right? I get you.
The principle of it, like if you want to make that bet on Daniel Jones, by all means, because I'm young enough to remember last year when people hated him, and all of a sudden
when you couldn't send a second. Like people are like, I don't even want a second. No.
People are waiting for Tyrod Taylor to take over the quarterback position. So, like I said, if it was Daniel Jones, I let it. But we've seen these drafts where it's like a Tua or a Kyler sitting there. And if that was the case, like we were coming up on the pick, like just out of sheer process in a vacuum looking at it, I go, definitely, like this is a smart move for Hawaii. But the situation would be like if I was faced and I'm on the clock and at 5:03, I could get a Tua or a Kyler. The pick hoarding thing goes out the window.
That's where I think though there's context also to Daniel Jones. Okay, so right. a few different things, right? Because like Daniel Jones, it's the name right now, but when you look at startups, Mike, and it can go a lot of different ways, but when you look at ADP, it also reflects this. There's basically the high end ones everybody wants, right? The Fields, and then they kind of sprinkle in after that. You get A-Rich, Watson, Bryce, Dak. Stroud, Kyler really starts to fall. Tua falls. And then Daniel Jones is like the cutoff.
Right, that's
because after that, it's right basically there. Like, okay, like you're betting on Trey Lance or
old Kirk Cousins.
Kirk, or like is Goff going to really get a bag? And
do I really want to do this?
Is Pickett actually going to be any better because they got an offensive line and they're investing in him? And it's like,
I'm with you.
That's the thing. So if you're giving him the 503 and he's already got a good build, there's still upside. But it's like, you know what? In this scenario, maybe Dimes, even though it's Dimes, the principle of what he becomes as a quarterback in the last of the tier is worth more than what I picked up, even though I like in a vacuum Hawaii side, which is why I wanted to talk through some of this intricacies of the entire deal.
Love it. It's a good deal by Hawaii. I like it.
I do too. I also think even if you lose this one, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. The underappreciated thing is he throws him a 16th, gets a 20th back, which is basically the same thing, but somehow finagles the 10th round pick, which in a best ball is actually going to be a decent player.
You know what the best part of that is too? Is it's really like a 17th of the 20th, because it's 2001 versus 1610. Like, that's another thing to keep in mind when you play up startup picks. Like the 1610 versus the 2001 on those swing picks. Like, there's that. It looks like 4 when it's really closer to more like 2. And when we talk about the player values and tiers, it's maybe 1, maybe none. I'm good. You can have that 16th. All right. Blitz, Mike. The Who's 12 team Superflex best ball PPR 0.75 tight end premium. 2 tight ends are starting, and we're starting 12 overall players. So the 2023 10-12. So this is another startup pick, by the way. 10-12 and the 4-12 for the 5-11 and the 8-11. In a vacuum, Mike. Settings and all that. What do you think here?
To trade back a round to trade up 2 rounds. I mean, it's probably fair on both sides. In a best ball, though, like, I feel much better if I have the 5 and the 8 than I do with the 4 and the 10. Even though I just said the 10, the 11th to 12th, like, there's going to be good players in there. There's much better players in the 8th round. They're much better. And the 4th and the 5th isn't really that much difference. They're kind of the exact same thing to me. So give me the picks where it's just a little bit better in a best ball. In a lineup, I could say if I got to push the button on it, I'd say there's more of a difference between the 4th and the 5th, even a late 4th and a late 5th. I'd say there's probably a little bit more. You might talk yourself into one extra tier. In a best ball, I don't really feel like that tier is there. So
can I tell you, without the context, and can I just tell you, everything you just said is right. And this is why I like to do these type of trades, and some of the reasons I pulled the ones I did this last week, Mike, because it's the dead period, and everyone's so. I feel like this is kind of a blanket statement, because maybe you aren't watching this, but like a lot of people are kind of asleep at the wheel right now. But the reason I say that is there's edges on the wire and startups, and people are like, just waiting for football. Mm-hmm. When I look at this trade, because to the vacuum, I'm 100% with you. Like, in generic values, the 412 to the 511 best ball. Like, if you just told me right now we're going to make this trade, the startup just happened, Mike. No one's made a single pick. I want the 511 and the 811. But you know what I think, knowing how Blitz is, before I even pull the context, because I haven't seen it, I just know it's in my phone, and I've pinned them all so I can see it. I think this is a move up from the 511 to get a guy at the 412 that shouldn't be there. That's what it looks like to me. Now, if it's not that, this is a terrible deal, because the full 2-round move back from 811 to 1012 is enough of a difference. For example, the 811 right now, you're talking like in the ranges of Christian Kirk, Aaron Rodgers, DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Jones. Now, older assets, but like, let's keep it real. Keep healthy. Come September, they go up. They go way up.
Yep.
10-12, you know what's going to happen? Will Levis, Jonathan Mingo, Brian Robinson. Like, I want them in best ball, but there is a massive difference in what that could be versus what Aaron Rodgers and DeAndre Hopkins and Aaron Jones could be. What happens in that 8th round a lot of times is it's the last of tiers. And people just don't want to press the button in June because they're getting older. So let me pull the context, because that's just what I'm looking at. And Mike, I don't know if that's kind of what you're seeing too here, or hoping anyway.
That's what I'm hoping. But I get it. Like, if I were to do this at the start of the draft before I know anything.
And that's why I want to talk about it with context and without it. Yes.
But there's a scenario, like I said, like you're talking about here. if at the 412 there's somebody there who shouldn't be there.
Boom.
Kind of what
Check
we were
it out.
talking about.
Check it out.
With the 503, right? If there's a Kyler, there's a Tua, there's somebody
Daniel
who's
Jones.
fallen.
That's why context is big. All right, so here we go. It's right here on my phone. I'm not going to put it up on there because I can just tell you. But 12-team Superflex best ball start 12. We already know all that. Started out committing early with Kelsey. Mike, I don't want to give this away. Well, actually, you already seen it. If you see
I've
this,
already heard it.
4D chess we talked about in the second round. If you take Kelsey, the risk of it forces your hand early. Started out committing early with Kelsey. This was a small move up to secure Cup, and other solid pieces were there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you land Cup, who's supposed to be like early fourth, sometimes a lot of times third,
Right.
to get out of 5'11", which now, Mike, you're talking
You
about
have no shot at a Cooper Cup type at 5'11".
You're talking about like Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman,
Big difference.
DJ Moore, and you already have committed with Kelsey. That's a craftful move now all of a sudden. That doesn't cost you a whole lot, right? Now the difference in Aaron Jones and Mingo is a lot, but so is the difference between Michael Pittman and Cooper Kupp on a contender.
Right, and that one means more. Even in a best ball league, means more.
Yes.
And then he backfills with the 10th, which, like I said, the 10th, the 10-12 in this case. Good players, just not like ones that I really care about, but I do have a cutoff, right, where it's like I want those picks in the top 12 because they'll actually matter in best ball. Everything after that is just kind of the same. So smart, heady move. If he's got to send two pieces to get that move up, let me get one more back that, not sexy, but it's just going to be a piece that I'm going to plug in. A Brian Robinson, doesn't really matter. It might be something that makes my lineup a couple times.
Now, I don't know if what Blitz did specifically here, but I'm going to tell you a 4D move that makes this even better is, okay, so now you got the 10-12 and you're like, all right, you're kind of playing, this is in startups, like play the board and see what's happening in front of you, right? Like now sometimes I think at the 10-12 even, if you're in a league that people are asleep on, like you'll end up getting a little value there. But let's say like in the 9th round, they're like, you know what, man, like Derek Carr is somehow sneaking around or like some of the, like you can now with your 10-12 find a way to add like maybe even a second or something. Or, another later trade back into go tier up again cheaply to land a Derek Carr or I don't even know who's all in the 9th round, David Njoku or something like that where you feel like it's definitely different tier-wise than what's going to be in the 10th. You can basically make this type of a trade again where you get the asset that shouldn't be hanging around.
Here's one more thing, too, like just to kind of think about. And if you're Blitz, and Blitz is very smart and very good at what he does, too. But I would also think about this, too, if I was just kind of projecting not only the 10th where you just want that pick, but if you kind of know ADP and where people are going with it, there's a quarterback ADP-wise in Superflex that's going a lot later than the 10-12 by almost a full round. And if you're going to make the bet on Cooper Kupp, why not take his quarterback?
Yep.
Right? Get the stack. It's a best ball league. That could be your QB3, whatever the hell it is. You're already making the bet on Cooper Kupp. Let's double down. And with this other pick, I'm going to get the Cooper Kupp Matthew Stafford stack.
And you know what else? Let's even say somehow that was like your plan and it misses. Like, Mike, you could 10-10. Like, Mac Jones hangs around at the 10-10. Like,
right, you get another one.
There's scenarios in the 10-12 if you play it right, where there's trading up, where you make that pick better than what it looks like on surface too. So when you secure an asset like Kupp on a win now, I'm aboard the Blitz train.
I'm with you.
NFL Blitz, shout out. All right, man. An OG shit league trade, Mike. Not myself. Yeah. All right. So 12-team Superflex best ball start 13. It's the OG shit league. Mr. Wonderful is acquiring 2 seconds, Mike. He's sending away Devin Duvernay, Elijah Moore, and then his own 25 fourth and 26 fourth. So, Mike, the fourths, I think, a little convolute the deal. But let's talk about this in principle of the league you're looking at and understanding. I'll be honest, there's a lot of things in this league that are very different than what most people are going to be experiencing in almost any of their leagues. So, curious your thoughts on this trade specifically.
I like it. I like it for Mr. Wonderful, to be honest. I saw it go through. Elijah Moore, I'm a little cooler on him than I was before, partly because of Debro, but I still like Elijah Moore. And if you told me Elijah Moore just a random 25 or 26 second at this point in a best ball league, like, I'm good. If I miss, I miss. It's not going to cost me that much for a pick 2 years out. Now, the right process play is probably just take the second, so we'll start there. The rest of this junk, Duvernay, 2 force for another second, the opposite one.
Even in 26, right?
I don't care. Like, exactly. I'll take that one all day. So when I look at it too, I go, all right, that was pretty heady on his part. The fact that Elijah Moore kind of fits that maybe probably worth a second in some people's minds. You get it. But the second part, you just hammer it home where, like, even in a best ball league, man, you can have all my Devin Duvernay and every fourth I have to give me your future second, even if it's in 26. As long as I know the league's going to be around, which this is a shit league, so it'll probably be around for the next 50 years. As long as I'm still kicking and playing Dynasty, it'll be around. So I like this one. The other one that's kind of underrated too is, I mean, Adam, you've featured so many trades on this league. So many. And you have some older, aging contenders who are highly competitive. You got my team in there. Yours you've built up now in has broken that juggernaut territory. So for the next couple of years, like, we're kind of at the will of, you know, Adam's winning it, or maybe one of these other contenders like myself is just holding on just enough.
Right. And plays the variance, and like, hey, like any given week, anyone can win.
I will be completely honest. When I look at it, Dynasty BA's team hasn't been that good in the past. And it's even more convoluted and cloudy now too. So if I have one of those teams in that range that wants to give me picks in 25 and 26, especially when everybody's kind of in no man's land, if you're not one of like maybe 2-3 teams in this league, yeah, I just take those bets, and I'm going to hope that this pays off, and all of a sudden I got like a 202 and 25 and a 203 and 26 or whatever the case may be, and I've made 10 times profit.
See, I like the way you walk through all the parts of that, because the things that I wanted to touch on that you didn't necessarily get into detail. One, like you already touched on Elijah Moore for a second. Process-wise, I think a lot of people right now want to believe in the talent of Elijah Moore and going to Cleveland, then paying for him, even though it was a trade back. You get Elijah Moore with Watson. There's people that are excited. But in a process play, it's like, all right, a second. I don't have maybe the upside today as I do if Elijah Moore hits, but like I have a lot more outs. So, okay, even if you say like that net's even in 25 because it's 2 years out. Here's the thing. Devin Duvernay, and I like the guy, right? But he's kind of like a jack of all trades guy, special teams guy, right? Good with the ball in his hands. But he's not this like dominant receiver that we've seen drafted later. And you just think about what they've done. They drafted Bateman. They still have a lot of hope for. I mean, whether it happens or not, Harbaugh's talking how much he believes in Shotty B. They just drafted Zay Flowers. They brought in $15 million a year OBJ. They've got Mark Andrews. Like, I understand best ball having my targets and stuff. But Devin Duvernay for a second is outrageous at this point, personally for me. Now, if you tell me I get to pick Devin Duvernay off waivers, or he's like a third or a fourth, like whatever. No chance. I don't care if it's in 29, 39, 49. I'm not sending a second for Duvernay. The force you can forget about. And I think the biggest part, though, Mike, this is a Mr. Wonderful takes over an orphan, right? And I think sometimes, I think the way the league went down, like, let's call it what it is, everybody decided they wanted to contend early, and I had all the picks. And, it's not even by anything other than variance. Like, if 9 people say they want to contend, they can't all contend. Like, someone's going to end up being with the short stack and be pissed and leave the league. So now if you come in and clean up an orphan, and I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to feature this trade. When you come in as an orphan, now this is probably one of the more extreme scenarios. Like, you have basically, like Mike said, people that have contended for 2 years and have leaned so far into it, there's no other option, right? Like I'm contending. I've either won or I've been close, and my picks are gone. I'm old. Like I'm not changing now. Like you're gonna have to make me feel it before I change, right?
Right.
And you got this other person that's just completely cleaned house with picks and has traded a bunch of things, and now, like you're looking at a weird dynamic. And I think that's another thing about orphans. You don't know the dynamic until you get in and see it. And what's really good about this trade, though, is Mr. Wonderful's like, all right, I got to operate in a zone I'm not comfortable in. I think this is one of the biggest edges in orphans is seeing the dynamics of the league and where is there an edge where I can win, right? Like, let's think about this for a second. Like, my team is really, really stacked. Now, granted, like injuries can happen, anything can happen, variance can happen. Mike's team's good. There's a couple other teams that are still really good, and then there's some awful dog shit teams that don't have their picks, and that's how things got out of balance. Now, if you're Mr. Wonderful and you take over this orphan, and you stay with these Force and Devin Duvernay and Elijah Moore, like even if Elijah Moore hits ceiling, let's say he's wide receiver 24 in Dynasty.
Yep.
That's not changing your team.
They're making you a contender.
Relative to what is happening in the league dynamics, right? Like, think about the league dynamics. These 2 seconds in years out, right? Like, people don't think about right now, but I have something that no one else has. Like, sometimes that's part of what you're doing is going to get something no one else has and seeing if you can get a leverage piece somewhere else. Because Elijah Moore and Devin Duvernay give you no leverage piece at all, period.
Right.
So,
right.
That's the deeper dark secrets of the OG shit league, you know? All right. B Hall, Mike, 12-team Superflex lineup, start 10. He's acquiring JimmyG, Austin Ekeler, and a 24 first from Windy City. Oh, my goodness. Sending away Geno Smith, Christian McCaffrey, and the 310. 12-team Superflex lineup, start 10, Mike. Oof. I know we don't like Geno Smith all that much, but you and I really don't like JimmyG, and the injury stuff going on right now is making this deal interesting.
Yeah.
Let's say interesting. Where you at, man? Where you at?
McCaffrey, Ekeler, I'll cross them off. I would say probably most people prefer McCaffrey. So do I.
I think McCaffrey deserves an edge.
He does, Adam, but then you really think about it, like who's the guy who's been like RB1 or 2 for the last couple of years, and it's been Austin Ekeler. So.
Agreed, but who's also like about to be 29 and was very unhappy all off season.
I understand until he stops doing it, though.
I get you. I'm not saying we should tell Ekeler shit, but
yeah.
All right.
I prefer McCaffrey, but I think it's close enough where I just really don't care. Like, it's the same kind of dude.
Fair enough, especially in a lineup league where you're telling me they're both heroes. Got it.
Right. Geno Smith or JimmyG. I don't like either one of them, but I definitely don't like JimmyG a lot more than I don't like Geno Smith.
Koopa, stand up.
Koopa, take your lap. This is tough though, man.
The first is huge though.
Right, the 310 I don't give a shit about.
Especially this year, because the 310, right? It becomes a pick I either have to make or find a way to trade out of that late. Because right now, when I look at this trade, it still has B Hall 7, so I guess it's one of these leagues that hasn't still drafted in June 15th. So
yeah, that's crazy too. It hasn't drafted a rookie.
But I look at that shit. It's like a third and 24 is different than a 310, right? You know,
it's not. It doesn't have all that promise of what it could be, right?
Right. All of a sudden, 310 is like
realized.
The closer the draft becomes to 310, it's like, oh, this is a real player. This is a real player. This is a real player.
I'm gonna say this. I think, and it isn't because B Hall's a patron. I think I'm willing to risk it, even though I think JimmyG is god awful and trash, just for the allure of the first. Because I'm hoping. I'm going to
run this, by the way, because I think the first, I like the allure anyway, even if you tell me it's not guaranteed really, but I want to run. This is why we have the simulator, you know? I want to see what kind of upside we really got here.
I'm hoping, not even the allure of the pick, right? But I'm just hoping that I hope B Hall's roster constructed correctly, and Geno Smith wasn't like his QB2. It was more like his QB3, and he got him off of waivers or a real late round pick if it was a startup last year, whatever the case may be. Like, I hope that wasn't the thing. And if that's the case, I'm more risky to fuck off. It's my QB3. I'm more willing to get risky for the allure of what possibly could be with the 24 first, especially if I look at Ekeler and McCaffrey and go, wow, while I do prefer McCaffrey over Ekeler, I think points per game wise for 1 year, does it really matter? They're basically going to score the same. I'm good. I'll just take Austin Ekeler. So the allure of the 24 first brings it in. And like you said, you're pulling up the league simulator. I have no idea where that does. If I'm looking at it and I'm going, man, Windy City thinks he's going to get one over because he's going to upgrade his QB2 position with Geno Smith, and he's moving neutral at the running back position but willing to risk his first, I'm in.
Yeah. See, I think, Mike, I'm running it, by the way. But the thing is, like, running it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But I'm going to do it out of principle. Here's the thing when I look at this, though. The more deeper I look at it, all right, let's say you convince me to do this, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll take the Ekeler down tier. Like, let's even say you're down on Ekeler. Like, you're kind of worried he's older. Mm-hmm. You'd rather have McCaffrey by a decent amount. Let's even call it like a second gap or, a solid player. Here's the thing, though, right? Like, there's only one way in my mind where B Hall really loses this, and it's Geno's his quarterback 2. And the rest of his team is really, really good, right? Because now, like, JimmyG is your quarterback 2 with the unstable shit he's got going on and, like, no fallout plan.
Super fragility.
That is where I think the only way you lose this, because, like, on the surface, the difference in Ekeler and McCaffrey, to your point you made, is like, all right, let's even say I leave McCaffrey. It's kind of negligible in the deeper scheme of what you're doing in a lineup start 10. And if those are quarterback 3s, like, I'm fine. Like, all right. I mean, I know Koopa loves him some Geno, but if I'm not playing Geno on a regular basis, I don't care that much about going down to JimmyG as much as I hate JimmyG.
Right.
But the 24 first gives you endless possibilities. Endless.
Huge.
Yeah. Endless possibilities. I will say this, though. Just ran the tool, man. And, we're going to need some things to happen to Windy City. It's going to need to get really windy. Number one team in the league. 10.3 wins relative to everyone else's in the 8s or 7s.
So let's talk about it from his perspective. If you knew that, if you were him, you were Windy City, and you go, yeah, this is a late one. Is it worth you to feel like you're getting the QB upgrade? Obviously, Geno Smith ain't plugging in as his QB2, but he's plugging him in as his QB3, I would hope. And if you valued McCaffrey more than Ekeler, is it worth it to send that late first?
I actually the way I view this is, if I was going to do this, all right, so my team's already really good. Geno's either my, like, battling quarterback 2 or quarterback 3, right? Like, he's
maybe he's got like a Patrick Mahomes and a Jared Goff, and now
exactly.
Geno Smith.
He's basically like, I have an elite quarterback, and I have him now as my quarterback 2, quarterback 3 fringe. I can either pick which one, or he's like my, bye week or injury guy.
Yeah.
So you secure that, right? And then McCaffrey gives you this, like, chance at more of a hammer and less risk based on the market. Okay. I think you probably overpay, but I will say there is a difference if you know your team's really, really good in Geno and JimmyG. I think that's the biggest thing in this trade is, if I'm getting the 24 first, obviously if that's 24-112 and I hold this for all time, maybe I don't win. But I'm playing that 24 first value up into what I'm doing with the hopes of, like, packaging it up into something else and not actually forecasting that 112 and seeing it come to fruition. Like, I'm not wanting that to happen. I'm wanting to play that into something bigger and hope that, I'm basically trading up. And I'm trading kind of, maybe not fully within tiers, but enough to where I can make this 24 first be something totally different. Like, that's where B Hall's edge is. right? Having that 24 first is the big extra piece, and hoping that the difference in McCaffrey and Ekeler are negligible, as is Geno and JimmyG. And if you're Windy City, might not be the best process bet, but if you're like, my team's really good, Geno secures my quarterback 3, even if it's for a year, and CMC, I feel really good about in that offense for a full season. So,
yeah, I would say I understand it. It's just definitely more of a sad trombone when you hear it's the number one team in the league. Now, that doesn't mean it'll end up being the number one team in the league, but
right.
It's not as appealing when it was more random. Like, ooh, this could be anything. He could have stuck him with this could be the guy who's, fringe playoff team, and that's a bet I want to make. Not as much on the guy who's already pretty strong. I'm like, oh,
right.
No.
It's basically like I'm using it now as a part of my horde of multiple picks is what I'm hoping is what he's doing here, and then I understand it a little more. So I'll still say in process, though, I want B-Hall side, because here's the truth, right? If you really think about the process, the last part that I still think makes B-Hall even still win, when you think about this and the scenarios that could play out, McCaffrey has been so injury prone. Like in that San Fran offense, bleeds running backs. How many running backs have we seen get hurt in that zone read?
All of them. Everyone.
Except for McCaffrey so far. But it could definitely happen in any game with him. And then if Geno turns into a pumpkin and Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, which is both of those things, for what it's worth, are not even crazy claims for everyone looking at this in the summer.
No.
You win by a mile on the other side, no matter what happens with Jimmy and with Ekeler. So I like it for B-Hall and a process. So,
yep.
All right, man. I think one or two more trades here. All right, Sorci. He was surprised I added him as a friend on Discord after he joined the Patreon, and asked, "How bad are you and Mike going to make fun of me? Are you looking for more details? Like what's wrong?" All right, 14-team Superflex lineup, start 10. 0.75 tight end premium. There's a 0.25 running back receiving bonus. So Sorci's he's receiving the 111 and a 24 first from Shufa. Shufa is acquiring Derrick Henry and Rodgers. Now, you want to talk about the ultimate. This is going for it and not going for it.
Right.
This is a clear directional trade. About as clear as you're going to get. Mike, let me ask you this. Like, just on the surface, before we get context, again, where does your mind go? So 14-team.
Yeah. The first thing I look at is 14-team Superflex. And I go, what I think about Aaron Rodgers versus what he's probably worth. I would say in a 12-team Superflex league, like, I don't think I want to pay a first for Aaron Rodgers, but I kind of understand it. In a 14-team league, I would say he's worth every bit of a late first that you can get. Derrick Henry or a random 24 first. The fact that it's 14-team, like, you go, if this is like the 202, in a 12-team league, if this is the 114, if I'm a contender, if I could sell myself on that, I think I'd rather just ride out Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? Like, these are both kind of old, crusty, gross guys that people aren't as high on, but have been elite producers in the past. I get it. This is the battle of directions, though. If I'm on either side, Sorci's side, not only because he's a patron, I can go, yeah, like, you take him, I'll take the 111, whoever the hell that may be, whether it's a Kincaid or, I don't care. I really don't care who it is. You have the Aaron Rodgers. I can talk myself into it. I don't think anybody's paying me anything more for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think I'm getting anything more later unless he comes out extremely hot and somebody talks himself into it. But it ain't going to change the fact he's old as shit. All right? That ain't going to change.
Yes.
The same thing goes for Derrick Henry. Like, do I really think anybody's going to pay me more than a random 24 first at any given time for Derrick Henry? Not with the age. Like, I think that ship has sailed. So at this point, I'm comfortable getting off. If I was Shufa on the other side, the only thing I would say is, and we alluded to this before on previous trades, is just in June, it feels so dirty to make this bet already when you have multiple options. If it's not Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Like maybe it's Russell Wilson's kind of in the same range. Like maybe I have more information. I feel a little bit better about a Russell Wilson. Or maybe, damn, Jordan Love has been tearing up in preseason. He's going around the same range. Maybe the 111 gets me that. But that's the thing. It's like it's the 111 in 23. The rookie draft hasn't happened yet. So, like, the ship is going to be sailing real damn soon. And really, Adam, I think if you tell me the 111 or the actual player who goes at 111, I'm going to take the pick all the time because it's just such an unknown. I get to do what I want with it.
Right. And it's also no name attached right now, right?
The minute I make the pick, it always feels like it goes down in value. It does because it just eliminates certain people that have feelings about that player in the name. So it feels like Shufa was kind of up against the clock here. I don't hate it for either side. The context on Sorci, if you're in a rebuilder, I think you did about the best you could hope for. Really good. I'd like to squeeze a little bit more out of him, and I know some people would be like, oh, he got caught or whatever. I think it's completely fine. And if I'm a contender, if I'm up against the clock, like I really don't want to make it, but if I got to, I got to. And obviously if he was the 111, no, this came from real cousin Sal, so this ain't even his own pick. I have no idea if Shufa was good or not. If I had to, I guess I'd go ahead and do it. It feels gross to do it in June. I'd rather wait. But
you would do the players,
buy the players, right? Like a 14-team lineup, start 10. I mean, Adam, what more are you going to ask for if you told me like, hey, I'm going to give you one running back you got to pick, and it's going to be a random 24 first that I think is going to be late, right, as a contender. There's a lot of options, but who's the first guy you're going to go to? It's going to be the guy who's like the rushing king every single year, and you're like, one more time, just give me one more year. That's all I need. Now, come to me, Derrick Henry. Now,
I'll say this: I think everything you said about that, honestly, like I don't really have any disagreements, and I think you actually hit a lot of really good points. Like at one point for Shufa, it's like, man. On the surface, it's close enough to where, like, did you need to buy these aging assets right now? But at the same time, like, let's say if Rodgers is starting decent enough and we know the name and the arm talent, like, the days of 111 for him are gone. Like, come September, October. Sorry. Now, Derrick Henry is an interesting case because we've been talking about he's going to cliff for 2-3 years, and then it just doesn't happen. But let me give you the context that makes this, in my opinion, why I wanted to talk about Mr. Wonderful's trade and the reason I've constructed these in the way that they are. Mr. Wonderful, we talked about, Mike, what? You take over an orphan and you just, like, you got to kind of have to see what's up. Right. Sorci, an hour before the draft, gets this orphan. Like, here.
Ooh, that's fast.
So it's basically it's basically like, listen, like we've been in this scenario before. Like, no one's taken this league. Here's this league. We need you to take it. You're going to get it at a discount. So he gets this. And it's in full cleanup mode, Mike. Like, you got aging assets. You have no direction. You're not good enough.
Sell it all.
It's time to take the discount sales. It's time to go Goodwill on this. Put it all on the rack, and let's take the best we can, And I only put this one trade up there. For Sorci. But here's the thing, Mike, right? So this trade was what happens. He also then traded away Christian McCaffrey and Terry McLaurin for Ritter, Purdy, and another 24 first. He trades away Bateman, that 111 pick that he acquired here, to get the 106, which ends up being CJ Stroud. So it's all of a sudden like sometimes in an orphan, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I think it's close enough where you could argue either side, but I'm with you. I'd probably lean the players. But when you tell me the context is like you have a doo-doo orphan that nobody wanted to take over,
I get you.
You gotta just move pieces until you can eventually get a win.
That's right.
Like, you're not going to come in and just demand wins off the rip. Like, you have to take your L's because someone messed up the whole build. You have to redo this whole thing. So, again, context is king, man. Context is king.
You got to get to shoveling.
Exactly.
You get to shovel it.
You're going to have to take this L on Derrick Henry and Aaron Rodgers, man. But it's going to be better for you in the long term. All right. I love these two. This trade has been accepted and is under review period. Trade will take effect on Monday. Tyler O'Ban, 22. By the way, I'm not sure which side is which. I can pull it up. But here's what we're looking at, Mike. Deshaun Watson, Christian Kirk, and Sam Laporta being acquired for DK Metcalf, Jordan Addison, CJ Stroud, and a 24th third. 12-team Superflex PPR lineup. Starting 10, no tight end premium. Mike, what do you say here, buddy?
So this is going to be, do you believe ADP and market value, or do you believe your own self, Adam? And I believe that Watson and Stroud are not in the same category for me.
Yep.
I'm clearly far ahead of Deshaun Watson. So if I operate under that assumption, when I look at the trade, I go Watson, Stroud, and Addison. I kind of cross those out. Would I rather have Metcalf or Kirk and Laporta? I'd rather have the Metcalf side on that than Kirk and Laporta.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I got to win with Watson over Stroud and Addison. Now, if you operate under the market assumption and what's actually been shown, Stroud Watson, some people actually favor Stroud than they favor Deshaun Watson. Or relatively they're close. And even if they're close, if you were to cancel these two out on the deal, I already told you about the Metcalf, Kirk, and Laporta. This dude got a free Jordan Addison in return. Now, if I do it on mine, I would rather have, because of what I feel about Watson versus Stroud on my team. And I put Watson still in that elite territory. I still want to draft him in the top 9. Like if all the quarterbacks go, if there's 8 quarterbacks in a row, pick 9. I'm on the clock and pick 9 in a startup. I'm taking Deshaun Watson. No question about it. I don't even think twice. General random leagues, though, I don't think they value him the same, and I think it's a lot closer. So just on market value, though, the Tyler O'Ban 22 killed it. But if I'm looking at it how I would, and I would give advice, I'd want the Watson, Kirk, Laporta side, and it's not even because I like Sammy Laporta. He doesn't really mean shit to me in a no tight end league like that. I don't even factor that part in at all, and I'm willing to take the loss on DK.
Yeah, so, see, I think this is a tough trade to grade. I purposely ended this here because I'll be honest, Mike. You know what's crazy is this is a warp tool. See, when I pull up a trade like this, and I'm like, all right, regular settings, I'm kind of torn. Pull up the warp tool. So, Mike, if you want to pull along too, you can. G-Dog is a new patron. Shout out to Gary Guev. G-Dog 1283, your league, the 12 meat packing beef boys. Love everything about what's happening so far with our warp tool.
What?
Yeah. Don't question me. This isn't. I didn't put this. I'm just reading. I'm just the messenger. All right. Don't kill the messenger. So here's what I'm seeing in warp, though, Mike. What I see really is when I look at this line for receiver. Now, I may have to start figuring out a way to screen share some of the stuff like this if we have it. It's going to be probably more one-off. But what I'm really looking at, Mike, if you pull it up, is like the top 4 and 5, maybe 6-ish at receiver, they offer a different line. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I start looking at the scoring, the way this works, like from Amon-Ra at 7 all the way to, I mean, dude, we're talking 22, 24. They're the same. 1 versus like 0.9. Like it's 1.37 but versus 0.9. Not saying you wouldn't rather have the better receiver, but like Warp already is telling me, like if you believe Kirk's at a discount, there might be name cachet with DK and market you can trade. But like that might not be the worst thing in the world if you get the big advantage at quarterback. When I look at this line, where the top 4 are monumentally different than any position out there, period. And then I really look and it's like the top 12 still are better than any other player out there. So if you believe Watson firmly is in the top 12 and probably has a chance to get the top 6, that's the piece I want. It's one of those where it's like, okay, Laporta is what makes this hard. And this is why I say it's hard, because I don't want a Sam Laporta in a non-tight end premium league. Like, if that's almost anything else, I'm smashing the Watson side. But, like, dude, I would say that. Jerry, this is I don't want to take back in June this overvalued tight end in a non-tight end premium league. That's the biggest criticism I could make, because I think, like, market-wise, like Mike said, Stroud and Watson are close enough. Like, fine, you can have this third. I don't care, whatever. His third coming back to him, which is also kind of weird. But, like, I'm okay losing Metcalf and Addison, but I'm not going to take back Laporta, which we just have to be real, probably for a minimum of 2 years and possibly never you care about him. Because here's the thing about the tight end line in Warp, Mike. Elite with Kelsey, very good with Andrews and Hawk, and then after that, like, just I'll throw anybody. I'll throw whoever. And I'm not exaggerating, because tight end 6 is 0.37. Tight end 31 is minus 1.12. Like, literally at that point, if you don't have a top 5 tight end, you just start Jeremy Sprinkle.
Jeremy Sprinkle.
It's Sam Laporta kills the deal for me. I still want the Watson side, but give me something else that's not Laporta, and it's a smash. That's, I think, the biggest thing for me when I really look at it, man.
Jeremy Sprinkle. That's how we're going to end the show.
Jeremy Sprinkle. Can we get a Jeremy Sprinkle thumbnail?
So just one more thing I wanted to point out, and this is what I love about the Warp Tool too, right? So I can look at his league settings. I was following along with you. I see exactly what you're saying. It's a visual thing too, so go get the Warp Tool. You can look at it yourself.
Worth it.
But I went back to 2020, Adam, and I wanted to look. That was the last time we saw Deshaun Watson play full season.
Oh,
you want to know what his WARP was in 2020?
I don't need to. I bet you it was 5.
Well, QB 5, right? But
his WARP number?
Yep.
1.7?
Way higher. So
2?
Joe Burrow this year had a 2.63. He was quarterback 4. And if you look on this graph, right, so much head and shoulders above
so it's
all
like
the other skills.
Is it like 2.3, 2.5?
2.61. So
and
he would
you know what's
head
crazy?
And shoulders above every other position.
Say what you want, but Watson might have his best cast of weapons.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't have Hopkins, but
not yet.
maybe true.
Not yet.
After he realizes, Hoodie and Vrabel aren't going to pay him, maybe he want to win.
Yeah, maybe
or play with a quarterback he's familiar with, because Browns haven't won anything.
But yeah, so we've seen him be in that elite territory. Now, if you have any inclination that that's a possibility he gets back to that, you should be paying as such. And this is,
but you know what? Though,
this is crazy.
Let's even say this. Like, let's say he stays at quarterback 12. Even 2020, quarterback 12 was ahead of anything else in the range. Derek Carr was 1.5. Right. So, like, I think you have a chance to win this on the low end. But to your point, if he becomes a top 5 quarterback or even like top 7, 8, you've destroyed this trade.
I think what some people also forget, right? We look at 22 WARP, and generally, Adam, our takeaway is we want elite quarterbacks, even looking at WARP or points per game or whatever metrics you're looking at. But one thing we always seem to bury too, just looking at it because we get so laser focused on 22, is 2022 was one of the worst years on record for quarterbacks
ever.
How many quarterbacks got injured? How many quarterbacks missed games? It was a horrible year for quarterbacks in fantasy.
Look at Trey Lance. Like, his dynasty value, like, forget the fact that he's a human and has a career and a family and, like, things on the line. Like, his dynasty view is as different as one could be in 365 days. Last time this year, people are going crazy. Like, redrafters, like high-stakes leagues people are over the moon on Trey Lance. Now, people don't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole in Dynasty. Right. And he's young.
Right. So it's just something to keep in mind too. I think we had like 70. I don't remember what the number was. It was something stupid, like 70 quarterbacks took snaps last year. So it was one of the worst years on record. So if you just go back a couple years and look at the Warp Tool and historically how quarterbacks were, if you have any inclination that Deshaun Watson stays in the top 12 or even approaches that top 5 territory, which we've already seen, this is head and shoulders. I know market says CJ Stroud, but I will still take the quarterback. That's a bet I'm willing to make. And I think it just further illustrates the point that I think Deshaun Watson is an incredible bet to make and an incredible value at the cost. Unless you're in a shit league with us, because he never falls to value with the patrons. They're too smart for that. But these normal leagues, if you find yourself in a random league and you're listening to this show, hey, mid-second, late second, you might get yourself a Deshaun Watson. Who knows? And you can go out and make trades like this.
And I like AR a lot, but if someone's going to take, Richardson 3-4 picks ahead of Watson,
right.
see you later.
See ya. Adios.
Love your upside, but I'll just take the downside of Deshaun Watson. I think that was a tough one to finish on because it's not fun giving away a DK and an Addison, right? Like DK, who once was the wide receiver one not that long ago, still has a lot of the raw traits. And Addison, who, we just know how the youth thing works. Like Addison could have 2 good games out of the first 5 and Balloon City, right? And
right.
That's what makes it tough because like Kirk is just not sexy and Laporta and non-tight end premium I hate. But anyway, good trades all the way around. In non-tight end premium,
you can't say
I hate in Iowa. I hate a tight end university tight end. I like Laporta. Just, Mike, I was expecting to like him, because he was a discount. And now it's like, he's this real. He's this,
Watch yourself.
Sam Laporta is going ahead of Kittle in a lot of these drafts.
What are we applications? Doing? Maybe taking applications for co-host for the Dynasty Trade Show.
I will be taking them too. Hopefully we can, get someone that's not an Iowa homer on here.
Oh, man.
Doesn't hate everything that's not Iowa. But anyway, we appreciate everyone of you guys tapping in, all the new patrons in here. My God, I actually thought, for a shorter trade show, first of all, it's not. We're an hour and 15 in. There's no such thing as a shorter trade show. We did 7 deals. These were some interesting deals, but the one thing I did want to highlight in the dead period is, like, if you take over an Orphan, like, stop. One of the worst things, Mike, I had to put those in there because they were the only trades we get, really. I get so many questions and DMs on, okay, I took over this Orphan. Stop looking at these Orphan trades and looking for, like, okay, this has been around 3 years, and you're looking at, like, in a vacuum trade shit. That's not going to be how it works. In an Orphan, you have to figure out the dynamics, and you have to figure out what your edge is going to be. Like, taking, I want a first for, this guy plus. All right, well, who has him? Like, yeah, it's fair on paper, but who's going to be the person that's giving this to you? Like, you got to start looking at the deeper stuff in Orphan leagues.
So stop using T-Rock's auto-accept trade blocks.
Yes.
To rebuild your Orphans.
Immediately remove that from your Orphan strategy. Don't go in there and auto-accept trade blocks. Hey, I want 2 firsts for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah? Well, welcome to the new league. Good luck to that. Anyway, we appreciate everyone tapping in. If you do want your deals featured on this show when Mike and I just, talk shit for hours, patreon.com/South Harmon. $1 a month gets you in the door. We have other tiers as well. But if you want your deals featured on the show, that's how you do it. If you don't want to be a part of the Patreon, I'm not going to be mad at you for that. If you could just go down, hit the like, subscribe, comment, let us know you guys are idiots. I'll be honest with you guys, it's National Bourbon Day. You're going to be looking at this a week later. My cup's empty. I don't even know how much bourbon I've been drinking, but it's enough. It's always National Bourbon Day. That's the only thing for me. Whether it's yesterday, today, but today actually does happen to be that. We're having fun. We're having a blast. Tomorrow you're going to see us for AMA. Mike, anything further you have before the long-awaited getting us out of here, because it's probably needing to be happening?
Nah, we can never do a short show. I know people want it. Get 2 more deals.
They don't exist.
Sorry.
It's not an elemental fucking chart.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It's not fucking. It's Fugazi. It's Fugazi.
It's like telling me to not wear my hat backwards.
It's like telling me to, just give away quarterbacks in Superflex.
Yeah. Good luck on that one.
Good luck. I mean, I'll send 2 first for Aaron Rodgers before I do that. So.
Not go to the Fantasy Football Expo. Take it.
As soon as this year happens, it's tradition, and once it's tradition, it's never gonna leave. So
never. No, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody tapping in, and make sure you keep checking us out Wednesdays and Saturdays trade show. We're gonna keep banging out too, as long as we got the bandwidth and the time, because I love talking Dynasty deals.
We will have the bandwidth and the time as long as you guys keep providing the trades, which right now there's still an excess, man. I don't know that we can keep up with the demand, but we're gonna try. Without further ado, we appreciate everyone tapping in. We'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week for the Dynasty Trade Show. We're out of this thing. Peace.